By now, you've heard about Global Poker, one of the fastest growing online card rooms available in the US and Canada today. So what's stopping you from trying it out? Global Poker is a safe and secure social poker site that uses their own patented sweepstakes model. Signing up is easy. You can use Google, Facebook, or just an email address. You can always play for free on Global Poker, but you can also buy gold coins for additional play, which will earn sweeps coins that can be redeemed for real cash to a bank account, Skrill account, or even as a gift card. Get a free 5,000 gold coins when you sign up right now at globalpoker.com.
Poker Stories is an audio series that features casual interviews with some of the game's best players and personalities. Each episode highlights a well-known figure in the poker world and dives deep into their favorite tales, both on and off the feld.
Hello and welcome back to Poker Stories, a podcast brought to you by Card Player, the Poker Authority, and hosted by me, Julio Rodriguez. This is episode number 125, featuring Brian Hastings. Brian is 33 years old, but he's been playing poker at the highest levels for half of his life already. The Pennsylvania native first discovered the game from his high school math teacher, and he dove right in. By the time he graduated from high school, Hastings had already built himself a $250,000 bankroll. He was already playing and winning like a pro, but that didn't stop him from enrolling at Cornell. During his time at the Ivy League University, Hastings worked towards his degree in economics, while simultaneously helping to run a poker training site and continue his rise up the ranks online. It wasn't long before he had reached the top and was battling with some of the best online players in the world. Then, in December of 2009, he took on Viktor Blom, better known to Railbirds as Isildur1. In the end, after a 5-hour session, it was a record win for Hastings of $4.18 million. Keep in mind, at this point, Hastings was still in school and was not even playing live poker yet. Black Friday changed that, however, and in 2012, Brian won his first bracelet in the $10,000 heads-up event. In the years since, he has been one of the most consistent performers at the World Series of Poker, and in 2015, he won 2 more bracelets, taking down the $10,000 stud championship and the $1,500 10-game mix. In 2018, he won the 3K H.O.R.S.E event and finished runner-up in the 2019 $10,000 PLO 8 or better tournament. Then this fall, he earned his 5th bracelet overall in the $10,000 stud 8 or better tournament. He is just the 29th player in history to win 5 or more titles at the series. Anyway, that's enough intro. Here is my conversation with Brian Hastings. I am here with Brian Hastings, fresh off of his 5th career World Series of Poker bracelet win. Brian, how you doing?
I'm good, Julio. How are you?
Great. You back home in Florida?
Yes, I've been back in Florida for a bit now. I did take a brief trip to New York City to celebrate my 3rd anniversary at the beginning of December, but now I'm back in Florida for a bit.
Congratulations. Were you visiting some family on this trip as well? 2 birds?
Yeah, so my parents live in Pennsylvania, so we visited them some, and then also it's like a 2.5-hour drive to New York City, so we went for like a full 24 hours.
Well, congrats on the anniversary. Also, it's been a big couple years for you. The birth of your daughter, and obviously poker has gone well despite a pandemic. But we'll get to that. First, on this show, we go back to the beginning. We want to hear your origin story. So, Pennsylvania, huh?
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, born in State College, mostly grew up in the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area where our family moved when I was 4, and my parents still live in that same house to this day.
So, Scranton as in famous by The Office, Scranton.
That is correct. That's Scranton.
Man, that's your ties to that show continue later on in this story. So is Scranton anything like the show depicts?
Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job parodying it. So I grew up like 30 minutes away from Scranton, so I wasn't like right there. But yeah, I mean, I've been there a bunch of times, and
but same.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty
vibe,
pretty good parody of the area.
what were you getting into as a youngster? I know you were obviously academically gifted.
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely always was proficient academically, and I always really enjoyed math. That was my thing. But also, I mean, I played a lot of sports growing up. I wasn't as good at those, but I enjoyed it a lot. Like I played basketball through ninth grade. I played golf. I played varsity golf actually. That was like the one sport that I stuck with all the way through senior year. I played soccer for a while. I played Little League baseball. So yeah, I mean, sports was definitely another thing I was into a lot, and of course, video games, which was a big thing for people of my generation, especially those with more nerdy orientations. So did a lot of that.
Did this academic focus come from within, or was it a parental pressure? What did they do for a living?
So not, I wouldn't say pressure, but like, yeah, my family definitely had a lot of people who, had good academic credentials. I mean, my dad currently is a college professor, and there are a few other of those in my family. My mom was an engineer, just retired this year. Also, a few engineers in my family. A lot of people with like graduate degrees and such. So, yeah, I mean, I think I just kind of grew up like, learning all this about people in my family and like using them as role models, but not so much actual pressure. Like I feel I never really felt that.
There was no rebellious stage where you got a few B's in a row or anything like that.
I mean, not on purpose. I mean, I guess occasionally there was a class or two where I just like wasn't as into it and didn't try as hard. But I mean, that for the most part, I did really well academically. I graduated fifth in my class, I believe, out of like 180. So.
Which of course lands you at Cornell.
Mhm.
Um, was was it Ivy League or bust the whole way? Was that your focus in high school?
No, actually, I wasn't really sure. I mean, yeah, I had a cousin who played football at Harvard, so that was, again, someone I kind of looked up to. But yeah, I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to go. I ended up applying to four schools, and Cornell was actually the only Ivy League school I applied to. And I applied early decision, so the decision was made for me when I got accepted.
Yeah.
But I also applied to Penn State, Bucknell, and Lehigh.
Okay, so you were gonna stay relatively close to home, no matter what.
Yeah, I was kind of shooting for that range where it was like close enough that like, people could come visit me, but not so close that they would just randomly show up on Saturday morning.
Exactly, an arm's length away, close enough
Yeah,
for a weekend laundry trip, maybe.
right.
Okay, so what was your ambition at that time? Because the story kind of goes that you found poker in high school.
That's correct. Yeah. So I think I mean, so I graduated in '06. So, Moneymaker WSOP happens in 2003. World Poker Tour starts becoming big on TV then. And yeah, I recall just, before I really got serious about poker, I recall just like, going over to a friend's house and like watching like WPT final tables and stuff and WSOP broadcasts and playing our own little like $5 home games. And then, but so I probably just did that kind of stuff for like a year or so. And then I found out that my math teacher, my junior and senior year, was playing online, and he actually told me one day that he had made more money playing online than he had teaching the previous year. So I think that was when I really like thought like, whoa, there could really be some potential in this.
So you were playing as a junior in high school.
Yeah.
Did you find success right away, or was it, you know, a slow start?
I think online, like I wasn't like I think I kind of broke even for a while, like maybe 6 months or so. I mean, I wasn't playing big stakes or anything. Like I started out depositing $50 and playing like $10 buy-in cash games and such. So, but
Big
yeah, I
to a
don't.
high schooler. Huh.
I was yes, I was like a junior, I'd say at this point. Um, and but yeah, so for a while I kind of broke even, and then but I was really interested in trying to improve and started finding like training resources like forums and some books and eventually training videos. So yeah, I mean, eventually I started to figure it out more, and my senior year I had quite a bit of success.
Right. I mean, that's putting it mildly. I mean, you had enough success to maybe even say no to college, right?
Yeah, I could have. Definitely had plenty of people who would ask me about that at the time, like, "Oh, like, yeah, why are you even going to college?" But I think, yeah, I mean, I think it was always just a goal of mine growing up to, to graduate from college. And again, like, I just had so many people in my family who were in the academic world, so yeah, it
Right.
was
So,
always
well,
something I always wanted to do.
real quick for our listeners, so the background story is it true that you had a bankroll of $250,000 before you even graduated high school?
Yeah, it's correct.
That I mean, that takes like a well, tremendous discipline at that age. But yeah, I mean, I there were people who dropped out of college with less than 20K to their name to become a professional poker player. So yeah, for you to go ahead and say yes to Cornell, I guess was a thing. It was,
Yeah, I guess I always just kind of realized that, like, I was just so young that, like, I wasn't confident enough that, like, I just wanted to be like all in on poker long term. So I just thought it was always a good idea to, stick with college. So, like, if at some point I decided I wanted to go a different direction, like, I'd be on the right track to do that.
okay. So real quick, how did you amass this $250,000? What was your method?
It was mostly playing cash games. I mean, so this was all Ultimate Bet. Um, that was the only site I played on before turning 18. Um, and yeah, mostly cash games, but I played a variety of stuff. I played some sit and goes. I played some multi-table tournaments. I do recall having like one sort of big score when I was still kind of just like, treading water with maybe like a mid to high three-figure bankroll, playing like whatever cash games, and then just like banking off like a $10 tournament for 3K. So that was like kind of a big bankroll booster then. But after that, like, it really was just like mostly cash games. Like, I don't really recall having another like tournament score during that run that was like a really big boost to the bankroll. It was a lot of just, playing just a few tables of no limit cash, and then when I'd win enough money, move up stakes and just keep doing that.
You've been open about the fact that you put in a lot of study time away from the table. What about back then? Were you getting in the lab before most people were doing that kind of thing?
Oh man, back then, I mean, again, like, I think I was just generally trying to learn more about the game, but certainly not in anything resembling the way that people would do it today. But yeah, just stuff like, reading some books and forums, like trying to, especially like, identifying a few good players who would like regularly post on forums, which was like way more of a thing back then than anybody like coming up today could ever imagine. It was really
Yeah, for
incredible. Yeah, I mean,
sure.
back in the day, like the 2+2, like no limit forums back in like 2006 and stuff was really something. You'd have some of the best players in the world just openly posting strategy advice all the time. Um, that's not a thing anymore. I mean, now that's all in like Discord chats and stuff. But
So you get to Cornell. What was the plan there?
I mean, I was definitely trying to do both. Like, I was wanted to be serious about my academics, but also wanted to continue with this poker that was going pretty well, very well. And so I originally started out as an engineering major, and my first semester just couldn't really couldn't really hang academically, given how much time I was still trying to put into poker. So I ended up switching majors after that, and then after that I was able to kind of learn how to time manage and do both at the same time. So I guess it would be kind of analogous to, like, someone who is a college athlete, like probably putting about that much time into poker while also trying to do okay academically.
And at this time, well, Cornell's in New York. You're not too far from Turning Stone. Were you playing any live poker at all, or was it all just strictly online?
I took a few, like very few trips to Turning Stone. That was the first time I ever played like live poker in a casino was at Turning Stone. I think, yeah, just like me and a few college friends just like took a trip up some weekend, but not something I did regularly at all. And like when I did go, I wasn't very like serious about it, or like, I mean, because I was playing pretty big online at that point, like 50, 100 plus at
Exactly,
times.
right.
So then I'd go to Turning Stone and be playing like full ring 510 and just like couldn't really take it that seriously, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. Like you had already graduated to the highest stakes online before you had even really given live poker a sniff, right?
Yeah.
At any point, did you have to do some kind of mental adjustments about the amount of money you were playing for?
Um, hmm. Yeah, it's funny, I guess, because I mean, it was like, I wasn't just like dramatically rising up in stakes overnight. It was like kind of a gradual process. Even if it was relatively fast, it was like, spending X amount of time at one stake, then moving up to the next stake. It wasn't like just like some giant leap ever. So, and then the other thing was like, at that age, I just didn't really have any obligations. I was, this single college student. So, yeah, just, money was just kind of a way of keeping score almost. Like, I mean, I was never putting my whole bankroll at risk or anything. So, and it was also just so easy to win back then that, I always just felt like if I took a shot and lost like, a quarter of my bankroll, it wouldn't be that hard to grind it back up. So,
Are you at this point? Are you even enjoying college, or are you just a slave to the computer?
yeah, I did enjoy college. I mean, I think if I didn't, I wouldn't have forced myself to stay. But I really did actually enjoy it quite a bit, both socially. I mean, I think that was nice because, yeah, I mean, I was, having spent so much time in front of the computer the last few years, I think I needed that like social development. And also, but I also really did enjoy my classes. I learned a lot. I mean, so I ended up majoring in economics and also just getting to pick some fun elective classes during that time. And I really did enjoy what I studied there.
So, you obviously had your famous score against Viktor Blom while
Mhm.
you were still in college, $4 million, plus another million and a half that came later, and obviously numerous other victims along the way. By the time you finish school, are you seriously considering using your degree at all, or are you just all in on poker?
No, at the time I graduated, I was very sure I was going to be doing poker then. Like I was still, and still, even still today, I'm like, still keep open the possibility of like, grad school at some point in the future. But it's always been more of a like, oh, if I stop enjoying poker or it just isn't like the best path for me overall financially and everything. But like that hasn't happened. Like I've always continued to enjoy playing poker. I mean, I know I've read plenty of stories or heard from plenty of people who like have just gotten burned out and like not enjoyed it anymore. But since that hasn't been the case for me, so I've been happy to just keep going with this.
Right. There's always been a balance in your life, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes more than others, but certainly now I have a lot of balance, and it's like, it's exciting for me when I have like time to devote to poker. Um, so yeah, it definitely helps keep it fresh.
Let's talk about that $4 million score.
Mhm.
Um, how does that change your life? You obviously got a lot of publicity after it happened.
Um, I'd say in the immediate aftermath, probably more negatively than anything, just because there was a bunch of people getting on me for reading my friends' emails about hands, and I mean I think the biggest memory I have after was just like being at Disney World with my family and just like reading people posting about me on 2+2 and just being mad about it.
Right.
But
You
I mean,
took a
yeah,
lot of
obviously,
heat for using some hand histories from some of your colleagues, which today I think would be kind of laughed at as an offense. Um, but certainly at the time it ruffled some feathers. I think at the end of the day, most people just realize you beat the guy, and that was all there was to it. You know, the person who studied the hardest had the best outcome in that situation. So, what about the money aspect of it? Like, you're a college student now with millions of dollars. How does that change you think anything?
I mean, money was great, but like, I mean, it's weird that like it didn't like immediately change my material situation that much because I mean, I was already doing well enough to be in like a position to take that shot in the first place. So, and like,
Of
I did
course.
sell action for this too. Like, it's not like I won $4 million of my own money. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it still was a lot of a big windfall, but like in terms of like my day-to-day life, it didn't really change much of anything at the time besides like oh, let's find some new things to invest money in. So Now
So
it's
no
funny to
big.
think that now because if I won that much now, it'd be like very life changing. But yeah, at the time, again, at the time I was, a 21-year-old college student and had already had enough to pay for whatever I wanted at the time. So it didn't really like affect anything that much right then.
Before we get into those investments you're talking about, did you splurge on anything? Did you treat yourself at all after any of these big wins? Not necessarily against Viktor Blom, but anything along the way.
The only thing I can remember somewhat splurging on afterwards was actually a gift for my parents. So that the session happened like early December that year, and I ended up buying my parents like a tour, like guided trip to Italy for Christmas that year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which they had an awesome time. Like, yeah, so super happy I did that. I don't remember really splurging on anything for myself though.
Well, you did own your own house by this point, right?
I did, yeah. So I bought that house after my sophomore year of college, and it was just like, a house that I could like live in for the rest of my time there, and had a couple friends who were roommates who like rented rooms from me, but yeah, I mean, I didn't like need I didn't need to like buy new property then at the moment or anything. Although I did actually consider that after that. I thought about buying like I think it was like a quadplex or something, like it's like a little unit with like 4 rentals for Cornell students. I thought about buying that as an investment afterwards, but didn't. Probably should have.
It might have worked out depending on your timing.
I'm sure it would have been a great investment, but like probably would have been a lot of hassle to deal with too. So just depends on. I mean, I haven't actually physically been back to Ithaca since I graduated 10 years ago. So
yeah, that would be a lot of back and forth maintenance there. Okay, so you mentioned those investments. On another interview I read, you mentioned that you did some poor investing. Anything you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't really want to get so specific on that, but like, I mean, I'd say like certainly at some times when I was having a lot of success, like both like then and also like 2015 when I won a couple of bracelets. In the immediate aftermath of that, I would have like a variety of people kind of popping up to like pitch me on the investing in their stuff, and like, I mean, certainly I would advise anybody in that position to like just really put the brakes on that stuff and like realize like, oh, there's a reason these people are coming to you right now, and like there's a reason like they're coming to you and not like people they know really well, and that kind of thing.
Right. So you had a bunch of get rich quick schemes in your ear, and some of them took you for a ride. What about backing and staking people? Did you go down that rabbit hole at all?
I did do some of that back then, yeah. And yeah, that also, well, I mean, I had some successes and some failures with that, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely a difficult thing to do well. Also, I think, I mean, there are some people out there who have been able to really make it work. Backers who back a lot of players, but I think it's, for someone, I think it's probably best left to the people who are like really, really good and focused at it, rather than someone like me who just was kind of trying to do it like part-time on the side.
So Black Friday happens, and it kind of forces you from being strictly an online player to more of a live player. How was that adjustment for you?
Okay, so Black Friday, happened in April of 11. So at the time, so I'd graduated Cornell in the previous December. I took 4.5 years. And I was dating a girl at the time who did a study abroad in Rome that following year. So I actually rented an apartment in Rome for like 5 months and was playing some online there, but also traveling to some like EPTs and such. So got into live a little bit there, but still was, I'd say, primarily playing online. Then Black Friday happened in April. We ended up breaking up. And then the following fall, I rented a place in Vancouver and got set up online with like, all the internet, like rest of the world sites, and was still primarily playing online there. But I did take a big trip to play EPT London and World Series Europe, which was in Cannes that year. So again, play like a few weeks of like live tournaments and stuff. So still getting my feet wet there, but I was still primarily focused on online. But then after that, I just kind of had like my mental health kind of downturned, and ended up just kind of sort of taking a break. I even like moved back in with my parents for a brief period to just kind of get my head right and figure out what I wanted to do next. And then after that was when I first ended up in Florida by just renting a place with some friends for a month, and then had a really nice trip and just decided to move to Florida and just then at that point get into a lot more live stuff.
You mentioned the moving back with your parents and stumbling in that room. Like, was there a time when you thought, okay, I'm done with poker. Let's that was my ride there. Let me go back and use this degree.
No, because I wouldn't say my mental health struggles were because of poker. It was just kind of in general. I'd say more just like kind of generally like not having direction and also just self-esteem stuff. But it wasn't really tied to poker. And if anything, I would say like poker was something that gave me confidence at times when I didn't have it in other areas.
2012, you win your first bracelet in the 10K heads up event. $370,000. All your wins are around the $300,000 mark. So what was that like? Were you somebody who had a poker bucket list that included a bracelet, or was it just another tournament on the schedule?
I definitely thought it was really cool to win a bracelet. I don't think it was something I had thought like too heavily about before that, but like I mean, since I had turned 21, which was in 2009, I was playing some World Series events here and there. Even a decent amount of events, some series, but not quite the full schedules that I've done in more recent years. But yeah, I mean, it was still I always like enjoyed playing in the World Series, and but I'd say I'd still identified more as like a cash game player then and an online player, so it wasn't like top of my list of like my goals or anything, but definitely thought it was a really cool thing.
We have a question here about where do you keep your bracelets. We'll get to the other four in a minute. But do you have like some sort of display, or are they just locked away in a safe?
I don't currently have a display. I've thought about getting some kind of display. I think that would be cool. I just moved into a new house in May, and we are still kind of in the decorating process. So at the moment, they're kind of more just stashed away in like filing cabinets and such. But yeah, eventually, I think a display case would be really cool.
Yeah, a little shrine to yourself. It's allowed. It's allowed in poker. You have some other trophies there to display. I know you won a circuit ring. Was it last year or the year before that?
It was. I want to say it was like 18 or 19. I don't remember exactly.
The last 3 years are pretty much blurred together at this point.
Definitely wasn't 20. I know that.
Let's talk mixed games. When did you start? Well, obviously you had always played PLO. That was what your big famous online score came in. But when did all the other games come into the picture for you?
So I mean, I will just say quickly with PLO, like I didn't play it right after that. Like I played all No Limit to build up that bankroll in high school, and then I think my freshman year of college is when I first like started dabbling in PLO and trying to work on that. So, but yeah, I probably was playing online for like 2 years before I ever tried PLO. But then mixed games was maybe like another 2 years after that or so, and I think it was just kind of I was just kind of scrolling the lobbies on Full Tilt and PokerStars and like realizing that these big games were running, and players that I was doing really well against that a lot of the bigger like No Limit and PLO games were playing, and I just thought that was interesting and thought it seemed neat to try my hand at some different games.
So, how does a Brian Hastings approach that situation? Because obviously these are giant games that you're jumping into. It's not like you're getting your feet wet at the lowest levels and then kind of figuring things out. Is it just as simple as reading as much as you can on the matter and running hands, or what's your process when you're picking apart a new game?
I think I did do a bit of just like trying to get some hands in at like a bit smaller stakes, still not like that small, like maybe like 40-80 or 75-150 or something. Like,
that's an expensive
small relative to the big bet games I was playing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I mean, apart from that, I definitely, I think pretty early got into like running just sims with like the pro poker tools and that kind of stuff, where just equity calculations, and also just trying to find whatever like learning materials were out there, like reading stuff like Super System 2 and just kind of trying to scroll 2+2 for relevant posts and that kind of stuff.
Your bracelets are in Heads Up No Limit, 7-card stud, 10 game, horse, and then of course almost at summer, this fall you won the 10K stud 8 or better championship. You got a little bit of everything there. Is that something you hang your hat on? The fact that you can kind of sit down in any game and hang?
To a point, yeah. Although I'd say at the moment I'm more driven toward like, really winning more like no limit tournaments, because I think I've kind of circled back to that. Whereas for a bunch of years I didn't put in the work that some others are putting in no limit hold'em, especially in tournaments. And more recently I've just like been really focusing on that. So I was a little bit disappointed this series that like I didn't have more better no limit results. I did the one like kind of good run I made was in the Win main event, which is a 3,500 buy-in. I got 18th out of like almost 1,800 players for 41K. But at the World Series, I just had like a couple of min caches and then busted the main event on day one. So obviously, I won a bracelet, so great series overall. But yeah, at the moment, I'm definitely driven toward trying to work on that no limit tournament game and get some results in there, because I do have a Heads Up No Limit bracelet, but that's a very different game. And yeah, I think it would be cool to, go for it in some of the more mainstream No Limit ones.
Yeah, it's interesting in poker. It's always the grass is always green on the other side, right? What's that game over there? Oh yeah, that's right. That game that brought me in, No Limit Hold'em. Oh, look, it looks a lot different than when I last saw it.
Well, I think so another aspect of it to me is just like, back. I mean, I love playing mixed games, but it's like really hard to find places to play these days, at least on a regular basis. So, back when I was really focusing on mixed games, like I could just log on and play whatever on PokerStars or Full Tilt, and that's just, it's nowadays there's not that much to play with that. So with no limit tournaments though, like there's stuff to play every day. So if I think it's fun to focus on that, and then there's just constant opportunities to play and study and improve.
Of your bracelets, which is your baby? Which is the one that you're most proud of?
That's a good question. Maybe this one actually, just because I hadn't been playing a lot of mix entering this series, but like kind of my method for studying this series was like, while still playing a lot, obviously, it was like, one cool thing was they had it so the 1,500 of a certain event would usually be like a few days before the 10K. So kind of like during those days, I'd like put in my like little bit of extra time at night, just kind of working on that game a little bit. So I did that for study and like ended up, going into the tournament and feeling like a lot better than I thought I would. And then the final table was quite tough and was still able to, I think I was still really happy with how I played. And so yeah, I think if anything, if I had to pick one, probably that. Although Heads Up No Limit is pretty cool too. That's a tough field. Definitely, beat some good players, and yeah, but
you are the 29th player ever to win 5 or more bracelets. Do these kind of things matter to you? The accolades or like your ranking in history, that kind of stuff?
It matters, yeah. I wouldn't I wouldn't say I'm like Phil Hellmuth level driven by it, but I do really look forward to the World Series every year, and I do really, try to give it my best every year. And while I'm not like, I did play a little bit at other venues this series. I'm not like totally just like trying to optimize for best chances to win a bracelet, but yeah, it's definitely a cool thing, and especially just some of the company that I'm in with having that many bracelets.
We have a question here we ask about close calls. Was there an event or tournament where you just made the wrong move at the wrong time and it haunted you for a while? It kept you up at night?
One I guess I could think back to most is that year in 2015 when I won 2 bracelets, there was a 5K no limit where I like had like a massive chip lead on the bubble, and then just kind of really went too hard with it and ended up like cashing, but like not for anything special. But was in a really good spot in that tournament, and then I think just kind of overdid it and kind of almost busted myself. So if I had to pick one, that would be it.
That's interesting. Most people bring up like a second or third place finish, but yours is about what could have been, right?
Well, I mean, I've had other final tables at the World Series, but I don't recall. I don't think I ever had a second though. And then I mean the other ones were just kind of like fourth or fifth in like a stutter Raz tournament where like probably not much I could have done differently. So.
Man, I would love to get to the point in my poker career where I forget my second place finishes. In 2019, you finished second in the 10K
Sorry.
PLO, 8 or better to Nick Schulman.
Yeah, I just blanked on that right now. I'm sorry.
That was $286,000 you just forgot about.
I mean, it's not like if you gave me like 10 seconds to think about it, I'm sure I would have got there. But but again, like even in that tournament, there's like I mean I can remember some of the hands, and there's nothing I like regret. Like I think I played well. I think Nick played well, and it ran out in Nick's favor. And but yeah, like I don't have any regrets about it.
That's good. You can sleep at night, then that's all that matters. All right, we have some rapid fire questions here to wrap things up if you're ready to go.
Sure.
All right. Are you superstitious at all?
Like not like seriously superstitious, but I do some goofy things sometimes. Like I mean, famously during this bracelet win this year, on day 3, which ended up being a 4-day, my wife came to sweat me, and she had a pair of my daughter's socks in her pocket that she didn't realize. But then we decided like, oh, why don't you hold on to this for good luck? And then I closed out the day strong, and then ended up winning the tournament. So then the rest of the series, I just brought those and held them in my pocket every tournament.
There you go.
Yeah, goofy things like that. But like I don't like actually think it changes things, but it's still just kind of fun.
And if it's really cold, you have some emergency finger mittens. So
that's true.
What about the biggest shot you've ever taken?
Trying to think like relative for my own purposes. I mean, I've played a couple of like live 100K tournaments on mostly my own money, so I mean those are very big shots. I've played 501K online on my own money a couple times. Yeah, I mean, I guess those, but like in any of those cases, like there was like a reasonably tight stop loss, so it's not like I could have just like lost $1 million. Like, but yeah, those are big shots though.
Biggest pot you've ever won or lost? Your choice.
I would assume,
and it could be biggest, in terms of, as far as the circumstances in your career at the time. It doesn't have to be just monetarily biggest.
I'm really bad at remembering this stuff. I mean, obviously I played some very big pots against Viktor in that session, but I don't remember any of them really. But yeah, like even sorry, I'm really bad at remembering these things.
All right, well, let's talk a little. You spend a lot of time in Bobby's room as well, right?
Oh, there actually is a really big one I won in there that I can remember.
Okay.
It was a PLO pot against Patrick Antonius, and I think it was like a 500K pot or so. I just remember he 3-bet me in position, and I called with some like low rundown. Then I check called the flop and turned a straight, and I like led the turn, and he raised all in, and I called, and I think he was dead.
Oh, that's nice. You didn't have to fade a board pair?
Yeah, I don't think he had 2-pair or anything. I think he just had like an overpair and didn't believe me or something.
What was it like, the first time stepping into that room and playing with those guys? Was there an intimidation aspect of it, or what? These are just.
Yes, I think there is some intimidation aspect. I mean, there's some some of the very best players in the world, of course, playing in that room. yeah, I mean, it was always a really cool experience for me. I'd say some of the most like motivated like I've ever been to play poker, and like really enjoyed it. I'd say overall, I mean, in those specific like PLO games that I was playing that trip, I did well. I think overall I'm down a bit in Bobby's room lifetime, but always a really neat experience is battling with the best, and yeah, some really tough competition, but you know, fun, just some great guys too. Like people, I mean, people like Nick always make the game really fun.
What is the best swap or piece you've ever had of anybody?
Um, I had there was one year in the main event that I had bought. I had 40% of one friend and 80% of another friend, and they were both still in with like 30 left, but
Oh, that's
kind of fizzled from there.
still pretty
But yeah,
pretty
still
nice
great, still quite good.
investment. Where is the weirdest place you've ever played poker for money?
Ooh, that's a great question actually. Um, I mean, I've played a few like home games just at like various residences, but I mean, they weren't that weird. They were pretty nice. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think in terms of like, because I mean, Palm Beach Kennel Club, I guess, kind of stands out. That place is a really interesting place. It's, you know, you walk in and like there's a room on the left where people were just sweating like dog races, and all their like losing dog tickets, like betting tickets, are just on the ground. So yeah, that one kind of stands out.
Yeah, let's talk about Florida. I'm originally from Miami myself. Then
Oh,
I
cool.
grew up in Davie, and then I went to college in Gainesville. So
Oh,
you're kind of a little bit near where where I've been.
yeah.
Um, you obviously liked Florida for the action originally. Well, you know
Mhm.
what's it like today?
It's funny because I haven't been playing a ton of live. Well, where I am anyway. Like I'm still like a nice driving distance from the Hard Rock properties. So like whenever they have tournament series, I couldn't make this one that just happened in November. It was just the timing wasn't good for me. But yeah, like I'll be there in January and probably April also. Um, but yeah, I mean, Jacksonville has, you know, Best Bet has some good action. It's just living the dad life though. It's just really hard for me to like, you know, spending all day just being kind of drained, and then put my daughter to bed at like 8, and then it's just like, oh, do I really want to drive like 40 minutes to get there? Like, not really. So again, like, you know, I was gonna play there when they, you know, when the WPT was scheduled. Like, unfortunately, they had to cancel it. But yeah, I mean, I always like kind of keep tabs on what's going on there. And like, I played one of their stream games, which was a 1025 no limit live stream game, and that was really cool, really fun. I would definitely do that again if, you know, whenever it's gonna happen again. But um, yeah, on a regular basis, I've just been playing online for the most part.
About 5 years ago, you said you were kind of gonna step away from poker, semi-retire. Do you still feel kind of semi-retired, just really only grinding during the series?
No, I'm playing a lot of poker. Yeah, my mental health was in an interesting place at that time too, and yeah, no, I'm definitely playing a lot of poker still. It's yeah, I mean, it's all I'm doing for work, you know, aside from just a random investing and stuff. But yeah.
And you obviously said you're still in love with the game, and you know you don't feel any of that burnout. Um, you know, I'm sure it helps to have the kid to keep you occupied. Otherwise, uh, let's see here. What was the worst job you had before poker?
So I had two part-time jobs before poker, and one was just straight up like dishwashing at a country club, which I would actually not pick that one. I think I was kind of like the people I worked with there. Um, the other one was at Little Caesars Pizza, where I did a variety of things that included dishwashing, but also making pizzas and like standing outside by the side of the road and like waving the sign. Um, I mean,
You were a
I guess
sign twirler. That's cool.
yeah, I mean, it was, you know, it wasn't like too bad, but like, yeah, I mean, I just remember like, you know, my boss was just really into country music and just blasting it in the back all the time, and that's not my thing. So, um, but you know, it wasn't too bad. But like, yeah, there would definitely be some days where I'd just be kind of watching the clock, like waiting for it to go away.
Yeah, I guess you didn't have a lot of time to have a job, given your high school success.
Yeah.
What was your largest non-poker wager?
Um, Probably. I think there was one year I bet on the NBA Finals and laid like odds with Golden State, I believe, when they won. So I think I won 10K. I don't remember what exactly I risked.
Oh, okay. So nothing too crazy. Obviously, you
No,
keep it
nothing
you
like
keep it in
ridiculous.
poker,
Yeah,
huh?
like I've never been like I've never gone too hard on like just gambling on non-poker things. So
I guess the real gamble is the investing, huh?
yeah,
See.
definitely have risk more on those things. Yes.
What is a talent you don't have that you wish you did?
Probably more athletic ability because I feel like growing up I like really liked sports, but I just wasn't good. And I mean, I don't know how much that really actually matters in the grand scheme of things, but I'd say certainly growing up it was something I always just felt like self-conscious about. And I was friends with a bunch of people who were good athletes, and yeah, I was kind of jealous of that.
If you could like pick one athletic skill to have, just looking like you currently do, but to just be able to bust out one skill whenever you need it, what would you pick?
Well, I mean, I might be biased from like watching the game last night, but I'm gonna go with 3-point shooting.
Okay, yeah, a little Steph action.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be hilarious if somebody my size would to just randomly dunk out of
That
nowhere
would be a really
with
cool one too.
no physical explanation for it whatsoever. Okay. Um, do you have a celebrity doppelganger, or have people told you you look like somebody growing up, or anything like that?
I feel like I don't even remember. Like, I feel like way, like a long time ago when I probably don't even look the same now, but I feel like I've gotten some. I don't remember though.
I was looking at your winter photo today,
Okay.
and I was seeing a little Ed Sheeran in there.
Okay.
Not as obviously no red in there, but um, a little bit of when with the beard action and the glasses.
Okay.
Seeing it.
My
Don't
dad
take
has some red
offense.
hair too, not like Ed Sheeran red, but like, just like a reddish brown tinge. So I didn't really inherit that too much, but okay, I see that.
Okay, you're not screaming at me. That's a good sign. What is your most prized possession?
Um, Possession. I, I mean, it's funny. I don't care that much about possessions generally. Like, I mean, certainly my most prized things in life are like my family, but that wouldn't be a possession. So, um, ugh, I mean, my house, I guess. That's a really boring answer. Sorry.
Yeah, the house is on fire. Everyone's safe. The photo albums are taken out. You have time to grab one thing.
My laptop.
Okay, that's fair. There might be some Bitcoin on there you need to save or something.
Oh yeah,
All
that's true.
right,
That definitely the Bitcoin wallet, actually. Yeah, that's a good one. Good point.
all right. If you could pick the entertainment for the Super Bowl halftime show, what would you pick?
So I'm a big rock music guy. I'm trying to think. I mean, I'll go with the Black Keys because that was one of the last concerts. It was the last concert I saw before COVID. I did get to see a couple this summer actually, but they put on a great live show. I've seen them twice, and yeah, I really enjoy their music and their live performances.
Black Keys. My daughter plays bass in a
Oh,
band
nice.
here in Vegas, and for she's 7, and for her first show, she got to play the Black Keys a song called Fever.
Hmm.
Uh, she loved that song. She still plays it today.
Yeah, it is a
Um,
fun bass song for sure, and that's awesome. That's really cool that she plays bass.
yeah, she's obsessed and just proud dad moment. I just look and weep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Obviously, you're going through the same thing right now, right, with
Oh
your little
yeah.
one. Every new milestone is just you know that much better. Let's see.
Mm.
What about the
That's like,
longest session you've ever played?
um, I feel like I've played like a few live poker sessions that really went long, but I mean, none of them not like 24 hours long, but like maybe like approaching 20. Like, and these were, I'd say, mostly mixed game sessions, playing like reasonably big mixed games live. But maybe once or twice playing like big PLO games too for like that length of time.
So this was a situation where you're staying up with somebody.
Yeah, it's like
Particular
kind of all the
target.
same players, like pretty much just all staying up for the most part.
Do you like telling people you're a professional poker player?
I guess it depends who, but I'd say like on average, no. I just think that yeah, like the kind of the reactions and follow-up questions can be like just annoying and like like uninformed sort of.
Yeah, not worth the hassle.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have a nemesis, somebody you can't beat, or somebody who's just always held over you?
Um, I'll just I'll go with Mormon because most recently he in the win main that got to the final few tables of, we were two of the biggest stacks and he won a big pot off me and then I ended up busting an 18th, and I just kind of feel like over the years he's gotten the better of me, so seems like a reasonable choice.
Shout out to Chris Mormon, online poker legend. Favorite gambling movie?
I mean, I'll just go with Rounders. I mean, I know it's the classic, but yeah, like I mean, I just have memories, myself of like I remember think like one time when I was on like a break for college, I got like a limo for some of my high school friends and me to go up to Turning Stone, and we watched Rounders in the car on the way there. So just kind of instant memories.
That's a baller move, right?
Yeah.
Limo to Turning Stone before you could even legally drink. Biggest pet peeve at the table?
I mean, definitely people just like unnecessarily acting too slow is up there. Like, I mean, I'm certainly have no problem with people like thinking through real decisions, but like, the kind of like actions on someone pre-flop and they just like, insist on taking 15 seconds every time. That stuff drives me crazy.
Who is the most famous non-poker player you've played with?
I would go with Paul Pierce, ex-Boston
Paul
Celtics.
Pierce. He plays the series quite a bit. How's his game?
I mean, I think he knows how to play. Like, I think he's, has a little bit of that like person who can afford to lose, so plays too many hands like thing in him. But yeah, like I mean, he understands the game and like is capable of like playing post flop.
What is the most entertaining thing you've watched, read, or listened to recently?
Um, I'll go with I think you should leave. If Netflix series, if you're not familiar, yeah, just fun comedy series, 15-minute episodes, which is great for dads.
Thank you. That's like an absurdist like sketch show.
Yes, it's like sort of sketch comedy. Yeah, the guy Tim Robinson is the main. He's like just this really silly, goofy guy.
All right, I think you should leave. There, go check it out. We end the podcast the same way every time with a question from the random question generator.
All right.
Okay, you got a little pack of questions here about the holidays. Do you have a favorite holiday, or was there a holiday that was the biggest in your family growing up?
I'll say Christmas. Yeah, I mean, it was always a big time for family gathering for me. My mom has 5 siblings, so it was always just kind of that one time a year where like we reliably were like all getting together and just like seeing everyone and just sharing meals and opening presents and all that. So yeah, I'll go with that.
What were your Christmas traditions? Were you like a ham or a turkey family? Were you New Year or Christmas Eve presents or Christmas morning? Elf on the Shelf? No Elf on the Shelf.
So Christmas Eve, we would always go to my Aunt Christine's house and have like more of a traditional like so that side of the family is all of Ukrainian descent, so sort of like a Ukrainian like some more kind of like a simpler meal with like no meat besides seafood, and then we'd all like do like a cousin's gift exchange of presents. And then Christmas Day was like, open the presents from Santa and my parents and such, and then go over to my Aunt Joanne's house, and then that was a ham-oriented meal, and I think a pork roast also.
All right, you're getting a little bit of everything on the
Yeah.
holidays. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on and sharing the stories.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's it. That is the show. Thank you once again to Brian. You can find him on Twitter at Brian C. Hastings, and also learn from him directly at Run It Once, where he is a coach alongside players such as Phil Galfond, Jason Kuhn, Ben Solsky, Sam Greenwood, and many more. You can also follow us on Twitter at Card Player Media or at Poker Stories. As always, make sure you are subscribed for the latest Poker Stories episodes. And before you skip to the next one on your playlist, please consider leaving us a nice 5-star rating and review. Let us know you did it with an email to pokerstories@cardplayer.com, and we'll say thanks with a free digital subscription to Card Player Magazine. Thanks for listening.